podcasted a little bit skew. Sorry, coming over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that can be a daunting thing.
It's from the senior essays. They take like a top percentage from the Premier Division and the top percentage from the Presidents. And then that's when they'll go to the minis. That's why I always say, don't think about the next combo. Just fish that combo. Catch the fish with that. You don't need to... It's confusing. And if the wind picked up and my spot went dead, I'd probably put on a 1.5 or something, just to keep it on the spot. That would be if the wind picks up.
Welcome to another episode of the Original Podcast with me, your host, Saki Vinnig. Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Original Podcast. We've got a completely different episode planned for you tonight. We're giving my dad a little bit of a break with all the packing and stuff like that for the travels. We decided to give him an off night tonight. So my co-host tonight will be Mr. Dwayne Webb. Dwayne, welcome back to the episode.
Thanks, Saki. We're doing an English episode, so answering the prayers of a lot of people. The Soties are united.
Yeah, they don't have to do homework today, so they can leave their dictionaries and stuff like that and just sit down and relax.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, so our guest for tonight is one of Dwayne's big chummies, Lloyd. Lloyd, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Saki. Thanks, Dwayne. Lucky to be here with you guys.
Yeah. Okay, so Lloyd, just quickly before we get started, I just quickly want to touch on one or two admin things with everybody back home. Okay, so if you haven't joined the membership yet, just remember there's a join button down below. You can quickly click there, join us, show us a little bit of support so we can continue bringing these episodes to you guys. This week we have already recorded one on Monday, so we're recording this one on Thursday. It's a little bit different because of the whole traveling stuff like that. So this is the first episode that we record a week before. So you guys will only see this episode recording on Wednesday next week. So it's a little bit of a different one. But yeah, Lloyd, let's quickly start here. So what we usually do when we get a new guest is we just quickly give them a slight background of their fishing history. So if you can just quickly give us a highlight run of your fishing background.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I started fishing club level when I was in high school, probably about 14. Started at Kempton, and I actually stayed there. Wow, it's the only club I've ever fished for till it unfortunately closed a couple of years ago. It's actually where I met Dwayne and a whole bunch of really good fishermen. So it was a good place to, start your career, I'd say, and then learn from other guys as you go. So from there, I started fishing provincials, Central Gauteng, and worked my way up over the years to eventually get to the A side. And probably after 2 years fishing A side, I got married and had kids and slowed down a bit with that side of things. But then luckily the elites came on. So that was an option to still fish competitively, but not have to fish as much because you just need to select your 8 or 10 for the year. And then probably a couple of years ago, started fishing provincially again and currently fishing for Eden. So that's a nice province. They're actually based in, I think it's Mossel Bay. So it's a whole bunch of guys that sort of...
But most of you guys are living on this side.
There's a fair share, depending where it is, if they need help in that. But myself and Kali Jacobs, we fish together on a pig, so that's really nice. And yeah, just still doing the elites. And for, yeah,
I have to say, I think the elites opened the door for a lot of people. Like a lot of the provincial oaks that was fishing provincial teams and stuff like that, they just couldn't keep up with the demand of provincial fishing, if I can put it that way. The elites just opened up the door where you okay, now it's a little bit more flexible where you don't need to know, okay, this week I need to take off, this week I need to take off, where you can be very selective with the weekends that you actually want to fish.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, if you've got a weekend available, you can go do a Saturday, Sunday, get 2 out the way. So it helped a lot. And that's sort of where where you're not so, let's say you don't have as much time available to fish. You can still be competitive to a point, still get to the finals and all of that if you do well. So it's really lekker, and it's a high level, so it keeps your game sort of on point almost.
I don't know if the level is anything lower than in an essays. Dwayne, would you say that the elites are?
I think the stress is probably at the same level because you've got the kind of top tier anglers. It's not unusual to have some very serious names in your zone, and to win an elite is not an easy thing to do. I think, like Lloyd says, it takes the pressure off time wise. You can match your schedule. If you travel a lot, you can get your elites around there. And what's quite nice about it is you don't need to do all of the steps of getting into a provincial team, which is quite lengthy and quite pricey.
Yeah,
You
and I
get to
think
make your own time.
that's something that I think we should really touch on in tonight's episode is and I'm glad Lloyd mentioned his like the leagues that he was fishing in the beginning and how he went from leagues to provincial and now fishing elites and now provincial again. I think that's something that a lot of the listeners might take some value from if we can just run through the steps that you can take. If you are just a weekend angler now and you are listening, okay, I've been listening to this podcast now for 41 episodes, and it sounds really lacquer to do it a little bit more seriously, and you're thinking, okay, with the season that's around the corner, maybe you want to give it a little bit of a go and see if you can make something a little bit more than just a weekend angler. Which steps to take to actually get there? I think that's something that we can definitely touch on. So, Dwayne, I want to start with you. What would you say? What is the first step? What would you recommend as a beginner step into
Yeah.
the career of getting to the top?
Yeah. I think, Saki, it's important to also say that you can go as high as you want to go. There's so many anglers that fish at club level. You fish once a month. Some clubs just do weekend competitions and you're happy there. There's nothing wrong. For all of us, we like the competitive stuff and getting to the essays and the minis and the Protea trials. That's our kind of goal. But I'd say step one, what I did at least in Lloyd, what you also did, is when you're young, join a club. Even when you're old, join a club. And for people who don't know, there's dozens of clubs over all the provinces. So if you fish your essays, there's Gauteng North versus Gauteng versus Central Gauteng, Northeastern Mpumalanga, Central Northwest. There's all of the provinces, and each of those have clubs in them, multiple clubs. So, I started at Randburg Angling Club when I was 13. And what's great about club level, Lloyd, you can maybe share also, is that everybody, it's social, and everybody's willing to share and everybody's willing to help. If you have a question, if you're not casting well, you can ask someone. What the people in Randburg did for me back then was they said, come peg with me for a day, sit with me, come see what we do, see how the trace looks, see how I bait up. So definitely, even if you don't want to go provincial or national, and you just want to become a bit of a better fisherman and catch more fish, join a club,
Yeah. No, absolutely. What Dwayne's saying is, when you join a club, you learn so much from the other anglers, and it's like-minded people. So generally, you're gonna get along, and from there, you can take it forward. Getting into a club is definitely one of the first steps that everyone should think about if they want to just improve their fishing skills a bit. And the nice thing with also fishing clubs is you'll go to new venues. So the club chairman or club committee, every month you'll probably go to a new venue, which is always great to try. Sometimes you can, like Dwayne was saying, they can fish weekend comps at nice venues and stuff like that. So it's a lacquer platform to get into. And then from there, like Dwayne was saying, if you want to take it further, once you're affiliated to a club, you've got your SAFOF number, and you can go do provincial trials from there. And that's the next step up, Provincial trials is also several levels. So, I mean, most provinces, you'll start C division, then B, then A. So you sort of, as you fish for the C team, you learn and you grow more. Then you can make it to the B side next year if you qualify, and so on and so on. But the nice thing, even if you don't want to do that, when you fish for a club, the best thing for us at Kempton was fishing leagues. So then you've got
leagues is definitely that's
such
the natural progression. Go to a club, join a club, then do the leagues, and then continue on to
absolutely, yeah. Because once you fish in a league, then it's pegged. So you're sitting right next to each other. You're fishing against the guys next to you, but it's you and your peg mate from your club. And then generally there could be, depending on how big your province is, maybe 4 or 5 clubs in a league. So your zones could be pretty big. But that's when you get exposed to that competitive side, and it really gets fun. And that's also one of the best ways to learn, because, I mean, that's when you're sitting with guys like, we had really good oaks in our club, Steve and Cully and Boris and James, and obviously there's a whole list of oaks, Setia and them. But this is guys with so much knowledge that you share openly. So now, this oak's telling you this is his combo, this is his distance, because as a team, you want to beat the other guys. So just by fishing leagues, you already gain so much, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, something that definitely helped. Just quickly, something that helped me quite a bit is like I started fishing at Eland. Back in the day, Eland is again a force to be reckoned with. But back in the day, it was Eland, and it was Kempton and Randsport, everything. That was like the big guns, I would say, in the province. And I was fortunate enough to be the runner for the senior team. So with Dirk Lourens and there was just a bunch of the really big names, Skalk Ace and stuff like that was fishing for the senior team, and I was the reserve for the day. So you always have, so when you have a team, you have it's 6 pegs of 2-2-2. So you've got 12 anglers. Then you have a manager, a captain, and a reserve. And the captain, manager, and reserve, those 3 are allowed to go into between the pegs. They can walk from one zone to the next zone to the next zone to the next zone. And I was fortunate enough to be one of the reserves. So for many of the years at the leagues, I was the reserve, and I was walking around helping, skepping, saying, "What do you do? What do you do? What do you do?" So I was fortunate to actually go to all of those guys multiple times during a day and see, okay, listen, this is what this guy's doing, and this is why this works. And you can physically go to their box. They're not going to hide anything from you. You're in the same team, and there's just no secrets. And that's something that I think that definitely elevated my level a little bit. Seeing that first-hand experience where you can ask them questions. Why do you do this? Why do you do this? So don't be scared to join a league. And even if you're not confident to fish yet, be the reserve. Walk around. Learn from the guys that are fishing, that's been fishing there for quite a while. It's an awesome experience to do that. And then once you feel confident enough, then join the team where you actually fish. And then, like Lloyd said, you're sitting on a peg. So that's probably your first exposure to being like under pressure, where you are sitting in a peg and cast it a little bit skew, sorry, coming over. And that can be a daunting thing. If you have to start off with an elite and you walk there and you're like, okay, this is the first time I walk into a peg, like that's going to be very, very scary. Whereas with a league, it's so much fun. It is literally like, that's probably some of the most fun days that I've had fishing was leagues.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like you're saying, so when you're sitting on a peg with oaks next to you, your casting has to improve. You're going to start focusing more on casting straight, maybe not casting as hard, as long as you're keeping it in front of you, working.
The guys are going to give you shit.
Yeah, precisely.
Dwayne?
Yeah. So, I think just one step back for if someone's now just getting into a club. So how league selections in a club normally works is you fish the whole year of competitions, and then the top 12 in the club normally get chosen. for those league teams. So in any way, there's some level of competitive to get into there. But what I was going to say is that you're now fishing Kempton's 12 best against Eland's 12 best against Randse Sport's 12 best against. I mean, that's just the Central Gauteng province clubs that we know. But it's such a good. It's almost a gateway drug into provincial level angling, because it also works in a knockout system. I mean, Lloyd, we can probably boast with a bit of Kempton's achievements. I think it was 3 or 4 years in a row that we won the Central Gauteng club leagues, and then one of those years we won the national league. Was it twice? Yeah. But I mean, it works on a knockout system. So they'll put a day of 4 or 5 clubs against each other. The 2 top go through to the next round, go through to the final. And then at a point, and that's when you feel the pressure of a league is at a final.
Yeah, when you get to a league,
Gauteng, you've got Gauteng North's best club, you've got Free State's best club, you've got, Central Gauteng's best club competing against each other, and then half the people in each team are Proteas. It gets quite serious, and that's that gets competitive, but it gives you a taste into if you want to take it to the next level, which is provincial.
Yeah, what's nice is at a club you'll get your suffolk number, and that's basically all you need to get from them. Is it possible for you to get your number without being in a club?
Yeah, you can get it through the Elite. So you just pay your registration fee. I think it's like $300 to Elite, and then they'll give you your SAFOF number if you don't have it, or if you just want to renew it for the year, you can just pay them directly. So if you aren't a member of a club anymore, that's the option that they've given you. But yeah, it's always better to be a member of a club, especially even if it's like a club with home waters. You can join there. You don't necessarily have to fish that much, but at least you've got access to the water and that, which is also great if you've got a family and that. But it's funny. So before I started provincials, like the biggest thing for me was to fish a club comp. Like a club comp was a serious thing. You wanted to go there, you wanted to give it your all. Like I can remember Dwayne as well, running in and out of the water, trying to beat each other. Cornet, remember Cornet? That oak was also really good fisherman.
Yeah.
And that was it. You could choose. You want to be the club champ for the year. It's competitive. But
yeah, I mean, if you take it that Jean Laram, one of the original guys that fishes in our team, he was now club champion, I think, for 4 or 5 years in a row. I mean, that's how competitive, that's how seriously he's been taking it. Like a club comp is for Jean, that's like preparation beforehand. It's crazy to see how he focuses for a club comp. Then I pitch up there, like for me, it's a social day, talking to everybody. I'll walk up and down. I'll be like, okay, put in my rods, and I'll walk around and like, I haven't seen you in so long. Wada. For Jean, it's a completely different story.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It depends what you want out of it, So, I mean, it is a competition. But like you said, some oaks are there to win it. And other oaks are, maybe they got goals elsewhere,
Yeah. Okay, but let's go on to the next level. So, Dwayne, would you say the next level would be provincial or elite? What would you say?
Probably both. Depends on what you want to do. I think I'm an example of this. Is I'm not part of a club at the moment. When Kempton unfortunately closed, then I also stopped club fishing. But I register with Suffolk every year, and then I fish my elite. So I get my competitive kick out of it, and it's difficult. You still have to qualify for a semi-final. You still have to qualify for a final. That's there.
But I do and you can still make it through to the minis, right? But you do make it still make it through to the minis, right?
Yeah, I think it's top 8 or 10.
Yeah, top 8. Or maybe it's
Top
10
8,
now.
then you get an invite. Yeah.
So on the finals.
But
So you
Lloyd,
need to get through the semis. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're being humble. You've done that a couple of times in the elite final, haven't you?
Yeah, twice. Yeah, came second and third.
Yes.
So that was as close as I got.
That's a big deal.
Pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was lekker. Unexpected.
Yeah. So, Saki, maybe for the viewers who want to get into the provincial and want to represent their provinces, maybe we should talk on that a little. So and Lloyd, you've kind of probably done this the most recently, but back, Saki, when you and I were still fishing juniors, that there were 3 separate weekends of trials. A Saturday
I've got
and a
no
Sunday
idea how it works now anymore.
over 3 weekends. So it's
with 6
completely
days.
voluntary. Yeah, completely voluntary. If you decide you feel like fishing provincial and trying out, there's trials. You're fishing against people that are SAFOF affiliated or people in a club. I mean, some trials are over 100 people that you're fishing against, obviously within your own zone. I think Stephen spoke about it in one of his podcasts. He won the last trials.
Yeah,
I think
3 times now that he. Yeah, but he was number 1 in Central Gauteng. He topped the trials.
Yeah. And I think they do it over 3 days now. They do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, I think it's a 1 weekend, but I think it was on different venues, if I'm not mistaken. I think they did it on
changed
2 or 3 different venues.
Yeah. And
yeah.
then,
So
Lloyd, you'll know best, but is it, I know Central Gauteng, you have to fish a year C team, a year B team, a year A team. Well, that's your best case scenario.
Correct. I think Free State's similar. They've also got like you have to fish C before B, before A. Free State's currently, I think, the strongest province there is. I think they've won the A division, I think, at least 4 times now in a row. Might be mistaken, but it's been a while. I remember the last time when I was at Central Gauteng, we came second. That was as close as we got to them. So maybe we must also just say something about the 2 divisions. There's the Premier Division, and then there's the President's Division. So Premier Division, that would be the provinces you mentioned earlier, Mpumalanga, Free State, Gauteng, Central Gauteng, Northern Gauteng.
Is Norm there?
No, Norm's actually with President now. So
okay, they relegate.
Yeah, I think so. Well, they've been there for a while already, so I'm not sure if there was maybe to do when they changed with the locations of the essays, because that's also been a big thing. But then basically presidents, that used to be like mostly the coastal provinces. So it's
Natal
Western Cape, Natal, Eden, it's Limpopo, it's Norm, and there's probably one more that I'm forgetting. So that's how they basically split the country up. And then maybe what you were talking about as well, Dwayne, is to get to national trials. It's from the senior essays. They take like a top percentage from the Premier Division and the top percentage from the presidents. And then that's when they'll go to the minis. So the A Division will have their section where you can qualify for SAFOF A, your SASAC, and then your Protea colors. And then the B and C division can go for SAFOF B. I think there's actually SAFOF C as well now. But that's, I actually think...
But just for the listeners back home, when we talk about minis is like that's a Springbok proeven. Why is it called minis? Why do we call it minis?
I don't know.
Why do we call it a mini
National
proeven? Because it's
trials.
actually a very big. Like if you get invited to the minis, it's not a mini thing. It's actually quite a significant envelope to get.
Yeah. And if you talk about pressure, that's
and when it gets to the minis, that's completely different.
Pressure.
That's 4 hours.
Maybe explain that a bit, Saki.
Yeah, so when you go to the minis, the whole day changes, the whole setup changes. So you'll draw pegs the night before, but you'll draw 2 pegs, 2 different zones. So they've got the bank will be split into 2 halves. So you will draw a peg for the first half of the day for 4 hours on this side, and then you'll move to the other side of the bank, if I can put it that way, like block A and block B. So you'll fish 4 hours, and then you've got an hour between, 45 minutes, an hour.
Yeah, 45 minutes.
45 minutes
45,
to move, and then you fish another 4 hours, and then you do that for 2 days in a row. And then it's
And in between that, you've got the selectors inspecting all your stuff as well.
Yeah.
So they come and check.
making sure everything is
your
nice
rods,
and clean, and making sure you
your
have.
box, check.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So maybe we should talk of how to get to the minis, because that's a lot of people.
Can I quickly tell you a funny story about my last minis, Dwayne?
Yeah.
So we fished at was it it wasn't at the sloop. What's the other one?
Verlatenskraal.
Where die brug is? No, if you just go over the bridge. Volstruis. No, Volstruis. Volstruis Bay. So before you get to before you go over the bridge, Sandveld's on the other side. So just before you get to the bridge, you turn left. So we had the minis there, and we fished the first day, and now it's December. It's junior minis. It's really hot. Dwayne, you can contest to how hot it can get there in Bloemhof in December. And it's I said to my dad, it's like, it feels like I'm just gonna faint. It's so hot, and he's like, no, let's quickly pack up, just drive a little bit, and then we can quickly jump into just go past all the pegs and just quickly go cool down, jump into the dam, just swim a bit. It's like, and we go around there, quickly jump out, run into the water, and as we run into the water, we just see all these snorre. Now you must know, we've just fished a whole essays. So I mean, an essays is what? It's 3 days fishing with 3 days practice. So it's 6 days. And now it's a 7th day. So it's just fishing. You get there and you can just check all these barbers. But it's just, dis die snorre, kom net so uit. Nee, ek sê my pa, my ugly sticks are still rigged in the back of the Pajero. Quickly take them out, take the slangworms, 1 hook, little inline sinker. My dad and I used to stand there, we're like, doof, 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 standing there, clapping the barbers. Now we're standing half, like knee deep between knee and half body in the water. We're standing there. So the phones are back in the car. It's like, and the phone keeps ringing and ringing. My dad's like, leave it. Yes, like we just clapping the barbers. And eventually we ran out of slangworms, and I said to my dad, okay, I'm just quickly going to run back and just get some more out of the cooler box, because we were just putting it in a little bucket. And then my dad said, while you're there, just check the phone. And I quickly checked the phone, and there's like 10 missed calls. I quickly phoned my mom back, and she's like, and they are waiting for you to draw your numbers at why not? And we're like, completely forgot about that. Just lost time. We were like, I'm like, Dad, we need to go. My dad's running out, put the rods in the Pajero, rush there. Everybody's showered and dressed nicely. I run into that hall, all soaking wet, full of barber on my shirt, everything, just in time.
So did you draw good numbers at least?
I can't remember. Like it was a good mini.
Bobble on that next day, bro.
Yeah, but it was that was.
You finished all your slangworms that day.
It was well worth it. I just can't believe that a person can fish for so many days and still be list for more. Like it's definitely an illness that we have.
It's in you, bro. No, that's it.
Yeah.
Dwayne, but let's get back to what you wanted to say. You were talking about how to get to the
minis. Yeah. So to get to the minis, you're fishing essays. Essays, if you don't know, is, like Saki said, 3 days practice, 3 days fishing. It's the 12 best of every province that you're fishing against. So it's very, very, very steep competition. And I don't know if it's
whether it's A, B, or C side. It's not
everyone's good.
Yeah,
and it's the top 20 or top 25 of the entire essays that crack invites to the minis. So it doesn't depend on your province, it depends on your individual results there
Yeah, there it goes.
to make
That's where you go from team to individual.
to individuals. So although essays, you're fishing in a team, and it's a wonderful thing, and it's prestigious if your team can do well at a essays. It's your individual results in a minis in a essay that's going to get you to the minis. Then I mean, from the minis, that's the pinnacle. That's the BMT that you have to kind of bring out. My minis, so I fished 4 minis, I think. The one that I got the Protea colors, on the first hour of the first session on the first day of the minis, it was at Allemanskraal. And I caught a 2.5, 3 kilo carp early. It's off to a good start. And as I put my hand in the net to unhook it, it wriggled and I got a hook in my finger in the bend. But barb in everything, past the turn of it. But and anyone who's fished a minis knows, you don't even think about it. I tore it out, it bled for the rest of the day, but you are just, it's ultra focused. You need a holiday after a minis. I remember those years it was juniors, top 4 out of the minis gets your Protea colors. Number 5 is the reserve. So you're already part of the top 20 that made it to the minis, and you have to be top 4 of those. I know seniors, I think seniors is 6 anglers at the moment. So anyone that wears a green jacket, you can tap them on the shoulder. It's quite a thing.
I mean, with my last minis, I had 3 good sessions and 1 bad session, and I got Suffolk B.
Yeah,
it was 3 really good sessions, and I slipped on my last session. I slipped, and it's Suffolk B.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But that's what keeps us coming back. We haven't stopped trying.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah,
well, I've moved quite a distance away from Waldheim, but hopefully one day I can try it again.
I think on that note, I'd encourage anyone, whether you want to become competitive or whether you just want to get better. There's so many different mechanisms and means to do it, like we put out,
Let's quickly go to the elite side now. So the elites are something that both of you fish quite actively at this point in time, if I'm not mistaken, right? Both of you are fishing it. Dwayne, you fished this weekend. We can quickly touch on that if you want to.
So you're going to embarrass me in front of all these people.
You fished at Trigards, if I'm not mistaken, a venue that the two of us fished together for our first essays. That's where our fishing career started. So how did your Trigards day go?
I'll tell you, Saki, the last time I fished Trigard, I think I came 4th in the zone with 63 fish for the day. We fished last Sunday. Out of 24 anglers, there were 23 blanks. And I was one of the blanks. So it was a brutal day. No one in my zone got a bite. Not even a little policeman jump. It was just dead. My brother's Lighty had a good weekend. I think he's 12 or 13. And he fished in a senior division at Knoppiesfontein on Saturday and won the zone.
Sure.
With 2 fish.
Oh no!
Everyone else had 1 fish. He had 2 fish, and he won the zone. And
but that's not his best. That's not his best. But that's not his best result, if I'm not mistaken, Dwayne. He's got a better result than that. He actually won a complete elite.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago we were at. No, I think 3 weeks ago. I think it was last farm that we were at that he actually won the thing outright. There were 3 Proteas in the zone, and he beat everybody. So I don't know what the Lighty's doing, but I've got the.
I remember young Dwayne was very similar to that. He was also quite young and then fishing way out of his league back then.
Not anymore. So here it is. He's fished 2 events in the elite, and he's on 23 BMT points out of a possible 25.
Wow.
So Yes, we're very proud of him. All he can
That's
talk
true.
about and think about is fishing. So we're very happy that we have another fisherman in the family.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
now
but
your
let's
boat's got
quickly.
the perfect excuse to go
Yeah,
fishing.
let's quickly just talk about how you were talking about BMT and stuff like that. How does that work? How does the BMT score thing work? Why is that important? How does the whole break? Give me a breakdown of how the elites work, because I've fished. I think I've fished 4 or 5 elites in my whole life.
Yeah. So Lloyd, chip in
Let's give
here
it to
if you
Lloyd.
want.
Lloyd
But
Lloyd
how?
has Lloyd has got the a 2 and a 3 overall, so I think he's the perfect person to ask for this.
Okay. No, so basically, um, what you need to do for the elites is you have to fish a minimum of 10 elite events for the year. And then of that, your best 8 count towards your BMT point. So it's a percentage, obviously, out of 100 divided by 8. So that's how you work it out. But you can fish as many as you want. You can fish 20, you can fish 25. It's up to you entirely. So guys with a lot of time and obliging wives or whatever it is, they get to fish a lot, and you can build up your points. So if you've had a bad fish, bad elite last weekend, you can fish one next weekend and throw it out. So it's sort of, it only counts your 8 best. And then basically, what you're working towards is to finish in the top 50 overall for the year. And I mean, I think I haven't checked lately, but I remember at a stage there was close to 500 people registered on that elite app. Yeah, so it's a big number. Whether all of them fish their 8 or 10 for the year, I'm not sure, but you can slip down quite easily if you aren't doing well. So you need to, when you do fish those elites, you need to make them count. You basically, I think last year or this year, Dwayne, for the Bloemhof semis, it was close to like a 84, 85%. It was actually higher, eh? The
It was
BMT
86
average.
this year. Yeah.
86% you
Was the
needed
cut
to
off
make it.
86?
Was the
Yeah.
cutoff.
Yes.
It's and you know what they did is they lengthened the season. So elite finals were always December's, and then they ran it from a December to the following April. So
That's
everybody
right.
could get a few more competitions in and knock out their bad ones. So it got to the point if you didn't just have first or seconds,
That didn't help you.
you're not going to make the
Yeah.
top 50. It was very competitive this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then that's basically that. And then, like we discussed earlier, so then the top 50 fish the semifinals, which will be the first day. Actually, there's the team event on the Friday. That's a whole standalone thing. But the actual semis starts on the Saturday, and then the top 20 out of the 50 go through. And then on the Sunday, you fish the final. And it's the same thing that you're explaining, Saki, with changing pegs. So 4 hours on your first number, and then you switch 4 hours on your second number. And then
I
it's
didn't even know that.
yeah. So with the semis, it's in zones of 10. It was 10, right? There's 5
Yeah.
zones of 10, and the top 4 from each zone go through. So that's how you get your 20 guys for the Sunday. And then the Sunday, it's split 10 and 10. So the winner of zone 1 and the winner of zone 2 will be first and second, and then they'll work their way down. So, yeah,
I remember
it's
now that I think Joseph de Beer, he was second this year, if I'm not mistaken. He
shame. Yeah,
missed
he
it.
Yeah.
was
He missed it
second
with.
in his zone, but
Yeah.
tied on points. And I think it was on fish count that he came
Yeah.
second in his zone and then third overall.
Or third overall, something like that. I just remember that we did an episode with him on the 17th
Yeah,
of April, I see now. I
Yeah.
just remember we were talking about like the fine margins, and I think the year before it was a similar thing where he was also, I think it was either at the SAS or at the elite final again, where he was just like this far away from
shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
getting
that's
it.
I
We
mean, he
really
was
need to do a
10
follow-up
grams.
episode with him. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was grams. We
I
really need to
actually
do a
watched
follow-up.
that. I watched that episode with Yusuf,
Yusuf.
and he said his strong point is fishing close. He
Yeah.
likes to fish. But I've sat next to that oak at Minis, bro. That oak can cast a mile. So he can do both, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were talking
So,
about
Lloyd,
the Free State guys. We've had quite a few episodes with the Free State guys. We've just like looking through it now. We've got one with RP,
RP, yes, that oak's also a fantastic fisherman,
and
Jeez.
he's going to Oz now. Sorry, Dwayne, what did you want to say? Sorry, I got distracted with seeing all the episodes here on the on my other screen.
no, I was going to talk because it's a very interesting and fun thing is fishing 4 hours on a peg and fishing 4 hours on another one.
Yeah, that's a completely new
Lloyd, I want to
dynamic.
know, yeah. And what I found is everybody's got a tactic with that. So, Lloyd, how do you treat that kind of zone change, and how do you prepare yourself? It sometimes happens you've had a shocking morning, and you know you need to catch up the afternoon, or you've had a good one, and there's pressure to maintain it the afternoon. How do you do that competitively?
Yeah, without stating the obvious, I mean, you've only got those 4 hours, so you really want to just catch the fish where they are. You don't have time to build a spot in that. So my strategy is if my morning session's gone well, and not talking barbel and those sort of things, because they go off the bite completely. So you can't think that's going to carry on working when you change. But if I'm catching fish deep, even if it's just the last 2 fish I caught were deep, when I change, I'm going to start deep. So that's what worked for me. The last minis we fished this year was there at Riviera. And the guys were busy on the short rods, but most of the fish were undersized yellows. And I tried it, it wasn't working for me. So I personally, when I change, I don't want to ask the guy if you see him what distance he is fishing and that sort of thing. But well, it doesn't need to necessarily be deep. But if you're working a distance that's fishing well for you in the morning, I'd start that distance when I change. If you're not doing well, I would always just try and chuck one as far as you can. And then the other rod, you can pick a distance that you're comfortable on and work that. But the thing is, you must think about it like this. There's so much noise now. Moving, packing, unpacking, moving. Those fish, I think they do generally move out a bit further, especially after that second, once you've moved again. So that's, for me, I like to chuck it, and it generally does work. My afternoon sessions are always better than my mornings in the minis or in those, even in the elite finals. But yeah, maybe it's coincidental, but that would be my strategy.
But I mean, there's
It's
definitely a lot of pressure on the water after a move like that because it's like all the cars driving up and down, and it's a big rush to get there. So it's not like people are
yeah,
driving slowly. It's like woof woof woof, and it's quite chaotic sometimes.
yeah. And the hard thing is if you're gonna try and find the guy's spot that was sitting there before you, you might spend 3 hours doing that,
Yeah,
and then you find it for the last hour. It's not gonna help you, you know. So I just think I look at it as virgin water now. I'm gonna fish it the way I like to fish, and just go for it. You know, in the old days, I used to try and speak to guys and that, but it doesn't work. You know, you just got to fish your own thing and just give it time. You know, chuck it where you're confident. Um, One other thing is when you throw that combo, this is regardless of where you're fishing, is don't think about your next combo. You've thrown that combo, that's it. You're going to catch a fish on that. If you start thinking what you're going to throw next, then you don't have confidence in that, you know. So if you've got too many options, that's maybe off topic again. But what we used to do, the minis used to always be maybe a month after the essays. So you'd have like a full month to prepare. And now you're fishing, it would be clip drift or it would be even the ball. You're getting so much information, Bloemhof, and everyone's telling you like their combo, this, that, this bait, that you go there basically overwhelmed with things. So when you get there, you want to try all these things instead of just fishing your own combos that you know that you're gonna catch a fish with. You don't need to try anything else, but you end up going over prepared, too many options, and then
And you
that's
confuse
why I always
yourself.
say don't think about the next combo. Just fish that combo, catch the fish with that. You don't need to. It confuses you more than it helps you.
Dwayne, you wanted to say something earlier?
Yeah, but now I'm excited about what Lloyd said. But no, just to tell a little story of the last elite finals. A very well known name. I won't say the name. I think I was on peg 36 or something in the first session, and he was on peg, I don't know, 5, 6 or something. 20 minutes before we changed pegs, walked all the way. I don't know if you're allowed to do it or not. Hey, Dwayne, how are you doing? What are you casting for? You
Even
just
getting
wants
the line, not just the distance.
Yeah,
he
wants
gets
to get the line.
everything.
His tactic
see.
was, well, this oak's thrown some feed out there. Let me try find it. He ended up doing well, so I'm glad my spot worked for him.
For him, at least, yeah. That was one thing I
no,
must say
Lloyd,
about. Sorry, Dan, yeah?
No, I was just going to say, I fully agree with what you say. Is in terms of confidence in what you use, everyone teases me because I just use Mega Mix all the time. Confident in it, Yeah, Saki, you spoke to Skulk a couple episodes ago, who shakes everything in custard powder, and it's probably a mental thing. But there's also a trend. Some people are going to the dam with 6 dips, 6 flavors. And if, Lloyd, I don't know if you're the same, but if I was to look at my little notebook, in general, I don't use more than 8 dips. Even though I've got a lot more in the box, I'm confident in what I use. A lot of the 8 that I have,
No, I'm exactly the same, actually. Yeah.
I was completely different. I had quite a big box with a lot of stuff in it, and I was not scared to. I was always with my one rod. It would always be a specific thing, but on my second rod, I would look at what I was in the mood for the day, and I'm like, let's give it a try. Let's see if it works. Yes or no.
Sure.
Because obviously with my dad, you hear a lot of talk. So during the week leading up to a day, I won't just go like, okay, I'm going to take number 6. So it is usually quite an educated experiment, but it's not necessarily something that I've used in the past. It's not something that I would say that I've got confidence in, but it's something that somebody spoke to us during the week, and I overheard it, and I was like, okay, I used, let's say, some bun spice. I'll get to the dam and I'll use the bun spice. I was never scared to take at least one rod to just like experiment, and it works sometimes. It worked every now and then.
Lloyd, do you do that tactic if you're going to a big competition or some event? Do you phone everybody and ask their baits, their distances, or do you go with what you're confident in?
Yes, Dwayne, I used to try and do that, but it never really paid off for me, hey? So nowadays I'll speak to maybe like James or Siatia, but we speak every week anyway. So it's not like I'm deliberately trying to get information. We just discuss a few options, and that's as far as I'll go, I like to go there just with what I want to try. If it doesn't work, it's my own fault. I don't like to say like, but this guy told me 75. I fished 75, it didn't work. I'll try 60. If it didn't work, it's my own fault. So I don't really want other people's info, because how many times have you fished a Saturday and then you fish the same venue the Sunday and it's completely different as well? Yeah. I mean, I fished an Elite. It was a back-to-back at Jackie Leonard's, and I drew peg 41 both days. The first day, I came absolutely nowhere. Old Baron Breed's brother, Darby, he sat next to me on the left on the Saturday, and he killed me. He caught muddy after muddy after muddy. And then the Sunday, he sat on my right. So he moved basically one peg over. I stayed in the exact same spot. And I still joked with him in the morning. I said, Jesse, but I'm going to get another harding here. And I did the exact same thing. I wanted to fish deep. I fished deep, and I think I came first or second in the day. The exact same spot, just one day different. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And that is his venue. That is his venue. That is a well-known venue for him.
No, but I promise you, on the
quite
Sunday,
dangerous there.
those muddies weren't there. That short rod didn't work, which is random. But yeah, so I don't know, Dwayne, to answer your question, I don't like to phone around, bro. I'd rather just do my own thing. I mean, I know what flavors and baits and stuff I like, and that's what I try. If it doesn't work, it's on me. But
something
generally,
that you said is like you'll talk to Siete or whoever, but you speak to him in any way during the week.
Yes.
It's not something that you would phone someone to try and get information.
Specifically on a
like
venue.
I'll take my dad. Like my dad and Dwayne, they'll talk whenever there's a little bit of fishing. They'll phone each other and talk about it. Or Gideon, my dad will phone Gideon. Or Gideon will phone my dad. Or Steven L. They will talk about stuff at work and at home and just some way
It's
the
a general
conversation will lead to the fishing, and it's like, oh, we're fishing here this weekend, and so it's not necessarily like, oh, what did you do? It's just like, okay, good to know. It's
back of the mind thing, not your whole game plan now.
No, but if you get to the dam, your plan A, B, and C don't work, then you have like, okay, Steven said like last time he tried this, so let me take a little bit of petite.
Yeah, no, look, that stuff works. Eh?
That's exactly right, and I think the I don't know, at least the times that I've really bombed and done the worst is if you don't fish your own style. Because I find, I don't know if you guys are the same, but if I'm listening to what everyone says and they say I fished a 115 and a 135, and that's not my type of fishing. That's not what I'm comfortable with. You fish different.
That is something that I really struggled with essays. In an essays situation, that is something that I really, as a person, really struggled with. Because you'd sit there, you'd be like, okay, you've got a plan. The team's got a plan. Obviously, the team's got a plan. You go get to your pig and you busy fishing, and then all of a sudden your manager comes in and is like, no, gooi die rooi goeters. And I'm like, what is this rooi goeters? And he's like, no, just throw it there on your spot. I'm like, I've fished for 4.5 hours, 5 hours to build this spot. Now you want me to put this rooi goeters there. Nee? And it was sometimes, and I'd do it and it would work. So it's not always a bad thing. But it's like in my heart, like it's just a very difficult thing to be just, it's like, okay, now you feel like a tool. Like I'm a rod that they just use. I'm just the person that's actually casting the rod. And I struggled with that.
Yeah. Saki, I can share a story of when we fished the Protea Tour years ago. We went to Namibia to Hardap Dam. If you've never fished there, it is parrot. It's the mecca of. It's my favorite place in the world. But on that the Tri-Nations, you fish 2 days against Namibia and Zimbabwe, but you've also got 2 days or 3 days practice before that. And at the SA team, we were doing incredibly well. On the practice days, we have a game plan, we have a tactic. You could only catch 10 of each species. We were confident. And in the last 2 hours of the last practice day, Harness Bakker was an extraordinary angler in our team. He now lives in Australia. He caught an 18-kilogram barbel on a Maddie's head. And I still think he was the strongest angler in that pro tier team that year, and ended up not doing too well in the main days, because suddenly I've caught this monster barbel. Let me forget my other tactics and just target barbel, and it didn't work out for him on that day. The guys who did well were the ones that stuck to, what have I learned on the practice days? What am I confident in? What's my tactic? At that point, you're so tuned in, it's muscle memory. If you change something that's too much of a gamble or too far out of what you're good at. And last week's episode was with Der Kukemer. Says, I'm not a caster. I clip to my max distance and I'll never fish an open clip because it's not what I do. And look, before he went Masters, he was top of the country.
I fish towards your strengths at the end of the day. I said that last week as well. Well, in Derek's episode, I also said it. Okay, but I think the time's catching us a little bit. Lloyd, I've got a couple of recurring questions that I want to ask you that I always ask the guests, and it's a part that the listeners back home really enjoys. So I'm going to give you a little scenario, and then I want to find out what would you do to rectify the problem, if I can put it this way. Okay, so let's say it's a nice little summer's day, fishing on a spot, let's say 80 meters. Catching fish every, let's say, half an hour or so, getting a nice constant tempo, not fireworks, but you get a nice constant tempo there on 80 meters. And all of a sudden, fishies are gone. What do? Do you change your combo? Do you change your distance? How would you change?
Are both my rods on 80?
No, let's say one of your rods.
So one rod's on 80. Is the other one working or not?
Irrespective. We don't care about that.
Okay.
We just care about that.
So okay.
Get too technical here. You're the first one to ask me technical questions like that. I've had one that's asking me, is it summer or winter? That's why I've got the little summer thing. Next time
so my next question is it windy or is the wind just stopped?
That's up to you to decide. Okay, so that's what most people will say. It's like depending on what the wind does. But what would you do if, let's say, the wind picked up or the wind went down? How would that affect your decision making?
Well, two different questions then. If the wind picked up, so if I was fishing on 80, I'd probably be using a spring. And if the wind picked up and my spot went dead, I'd probably put on a 1.5 or something just to keep it on the spot. That would be if the wind picks up. If the wind dies, if it was windy, I'd probably put on a spring, which is maybe not the answer. And then the basic answer would be is I'd actually, if I was catching it on 30 minutes, the bite's on 30 minutes, I would take it out on 40 and I'd flood the ball and I'd throw it straight back on the spot again. And then while that's waiting, I'd bait up a heavier trace because then I'm going to take it out. If it doesn't go after 30 minutes again, then I'm going to go deep.
So you give it 2 chances and that's it?
No, I'd literally... So if that spot goes dead, I would throw it straight back, but I'd flood the ball on that same distance. And if that doesn't go again, but on that half an hour, not longer, then I would probably go deeper if the winds calmed down. Yeah. I mean, 80 meters isn't my number. I would prefer like a 60 or 70, but 80, I'd probably do the same tactic. Dwayne, so that's why I was asking about my other rod, because I'd usually have one on like a 125. So if that rod's working, I would probably go further than that. I would throw an open spool, and depending on what that tempo is on that 125.
I'm actually glad that you said this now. I'm honestly glad you are the first guest that actually says that they will abandon that spot, if I can put it that way. Because most guys will say, listen, okay, they will either they'll add something or take something off, go a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, come a little bit forward, go a little bit further. But you are the first guest now that I think that says, okay, listen, I'm going to give it an hour, so you're going to give it the 40 minutes. If it doesn't work, you're going to give it a half an hour, and I think that's
No, that's it.
to be honest, I think a lot of the guests, I think that's a very honest answer, because I think a lot of the guests say that they'll put it there, come a little bit closer, but I think that's more if your tempo is on a 15 minutes or something like that, you would do maybe 2 or 3 casts. But if you have to wait
Sure.
a half an hour every time, I think after the second or third one, definitely you will.
No, you can catch
most
big
people
carp
will.
further out there. I wouldn't.
Especially
Wouldn't
my
wait.
dad. Like, I know my dad. I think if that thing for the first half an hour doesn't bite, like his rod, you will already be getting the big rods ready. 14's ready to hit the back.
I must tell you a story about your dad, Zach. We were fishing it was one of the leagues. I don't know if it was the semis or what it was, but it was still the interprovincial. I think your dad was fishing for Ierland.
Ierland or AHV.
It might have been HV, yeah. I can't remember. But he was sitting on my right, and I was throwing balls because we had fished a club comp there the weekend before, and Uncle Gordon Muir, he clapped all of us because he threw balls, I think, on like a 110. And he was quiet for the first couple hours, but when that spot started moving, he just caught those nice 2.5 kilo carps, and he won the day by a mile. So when we drew our pegs, James and I were sitting exactly where Uncle Gordon had fished the club comp. So I took out my rod and I started throwing balls on that 110, and your dad was sitting next to me. And I promise you, your dad's tactic was a short game because he just had his short rods out. And when I got that first carp on that long rod, your dad pulled out his DCs straight there on the spot. But luckily, I think we shared the spot for about an hour or so. And then James started catching those muddies on the short stick. So I left your dad there and I came both close. But yeah, like you said, your dad doesn't wait, eh? If he sees a fish out there, he's going to go.
He's like, I think when he fishes, like lately, he's a little bit better. I'm talking now about a little bit, let's say 7 or 10 years ago. Like, you didn't have to convince my dad. You didn't have to twist his arm twice. Like that, those rods are ready. It's like we can take them out any day.
Yeah.
I think if you give him a choice, if he can put the fish in the dam, what distance he would put them, like 150. Okay, that was how the first recurring question. We're really running out of time now, so let's quickly run for the second recurring question. So if I have to tell you, you can only take 4 flavors and 4 floaties. Which ones do you take with you?
Can the flavors be a mix?
Yeah.
Like one flavor could be like a garlic almond.
Yeah, garlic almond, that's fine.
So that would be one.
That's one.
Then it would be a spirit. That would be 2. And I'd have a pink sweets, would be 3. And then a bun spice, nalky type, that would be 4.
And your floats?
And then floats, I'd have a cinnamon float. I'd have a plain white or yellow float. Does that count as a flavor? Is it a bonus one?
No, you can keep
It
that
definitely
one.
counts.
Okay, Dwayne says it
I
counts.
only use plain floaties. They count.
And then I'd have a garlic almond float. So that's 3. And then, the last one's a toughie. But probably, I think an aniseed, hey? That's really been surprisingly good lately. So at the moment, that's what the fourth one would be. But that one I would change with something else if I could,
What would
depending
you
on
change?
what's happening.
If you had a bonus one, what would you add?
A bonus one. You see, now I've got 2 bonus ones. Can I say both of them?
Go for it. Give us.
It would be like a wintergreen or eucalyptus. One of those
The
2.
strong ones.
Yeah.
In hard or soft
Yeah.
floats?
Only the garlic almond one I like soft. The rest of them I like hard. No, the plain one hard. The cinnamon one I like hard. Yeah. Probably.
What color are your aniseed ones, Lloyd?
So, depends who's given them to me. Because Kali gave me the last batch. I think they were orange. But actually, Gideon also gave me some. I think those were plain white. So I don't really look for the aniseed. I don't think the color matters. You know what?
Because it's
I've
such
actually
a strong
forgotten.
flavor.
Can I take out one of them? I think I need a honey float in there.
Yes. Yeah. I think throw away all the flavor, all the dips, and just take floaties. I think you
Yeah, I
just
don't
need
even
20
put
floaties
dips
and you'll
on.
be happy.
Yeah,
Are you a
but
strong believer in a floatie? Is a floatie for you really a important part in your fishing arsenal?
look, a floaty is such a nice thing to add to like a hook bait. So with a worm, I'd like to fish some sort of floaty with a worm. For some reason, it definitely helps the bite ratio on the worm. I mean, the worm alone is a great bait, a hook bait, a Kariba worm. But with a garlic float with that, or even just a plain float, it's really much better. And then certain venues, if you fish a doe with a nice a longish doe with a float, you can generally pick up bigger fish. So that's where that would help. And then also, like if you don't have maggots or something like that, and you're fishing a venue where it's high tempo, sometimes a float can also match that tempo, you know. So you can, I like that in that sense as well. But yeah, I think I
You like a
have a
float. Just
float
say you
on
like a float.
every cast. Not on every hook, but on every cast, yeah, I'll have a float.
Okay, and then the last recurring question that I always ask is if you could start a fishing podcast, who would be your first guest and why?
Uncle Gordon Muir. Just because he's a character that I just always makes me laugh, and that's it. Have you had him on yet?
No, I haven't. No, but he's like I've got a plan. I've got a plan with him, Gordon. Um, I think what I would want to do is I want to try to get him and Quentin, get the two of
Yeah,
them. I
Quint.
want to do like a mini series where I do like father and son, or mom and daughter, or mom and son, or like family members.
Yeah,
So I'm keeping Gordon on the list. So definitely the
you
two
know
of
why
them
that would
is.
work? It would work well because if it was just Uncle Gordon, you wouldn't be able to set up the camera and the
Yeah,
microphone and stuff.
but a lot of the guests that happens with a lot of the guests. Don't worry. That's why my dad is usually there at the on the back side on that side of the podcast is my dad trying to help everybody.
Oh,
And
okay.
you also need a camera with a wide angle lens to
Yeah,
fit Quinton in
for his
for
muscles,
those arms.
I really
Yeah.
think we're gonna have to. He's gonna have to sit there at the back just to get the arms in.
Yeah.
But anyways, okay. But I think that's a good guest. We will definitely in the future we'll think about getting him. That like I said, like I've got this I've got a few people that's like mom and daughter or dad and son that usually that's at a very high level of fishing at this point in time. So we'll try and get that. But okay, I think the time has caught up to us. So Lloyd, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. It was a really fun episode, and I hope we will do a part two. So part two, I think if we can twist your arm for part two, we'll talk about a little bit more about gear. I think Dwayne and I
Okay.
spoke about like the essential gear. We spoke now about the levels to get to let's say to the top of fishing, and then I think the next time we can talk a little bit more about the gear. But thanks for your time. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
No, pleasure, bro. And good luck with the wedding, eh?
Ah, thank you. Thank you.
It's not too late, but you're still free.
I just hope
I
she
don't
says
think
I
so.
do.
I don't.
No, I'm joking, man. I wish you
I don't
guys all
know.
the best, eh?
Yeah. Okay, but Dwayne, and then it was your first episode as a co-host. Thank you so much for your input and stuff like that. I really appreciate it. This is definitely something we will do a little bit more in the future, where you or Gideon will join either my dad or me or my dad. just to give us a little bit more flexibility, just to give us a day off or so, because at the end of the day, like, it's really taxing to do 40 episodes in a row, 40 weeks. Like for me now, it's 1:30 in the morning. So if I can have 1 week off every now and then, I would really enjoy it. So thank you for your trouble.
That's always a privilege to be on this, Saki. Thank you.
All right, and then next week's episode will be a little bit of a different one again. My dad will be, by the time this episode goes live, my dad will be in Vietnam with me. So I think for next week's episode, we're going to do a little bit of a special episode where the two of us will sit somewhere and we're going to do a live, not a live, we'll do a recording in person with the two of us. So I think that's going to be a fun one to do. We still need to figure out how we're going to do that, but we'll sort that out. But I'll see you guys then next week. Thank you. Cheers.